Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we'll be discussing some big news coming out of the San Jose Sharks organization today, and that is that they have finally filled in the vacant head coaching position left by the firing of David Quinn a couple of months ago, and they have filled it with none other than the former assistant coach for Quinn, Ryan Warsofsky. Now, this signing doesn't really come as that big of a surprise. A few weeks ago, I made a video discussing 5 potential head coaching candidates for the San Jose Sharks, and Ryan Warsofsky was indeed on that list. On top of that, when the Sharks originally signed him as an assistant coach a couple of years ago, it was at a time where many teams were looking to bring him within the fold of their organization because of the immense success he had been having in the AHL, including a Calder Cup championship in the previous year with the Chicago Wolves in that particular league. And so when the Sharks did indeed sign him on, it always felt as though it came with the understanding that once David Quinn's time would expire with the Sharks, whether that be in the couple of years it did end up taking or in 3 to 4 years, that Warsofsky would be heavily involved in the next head coaching search for the San Jose Sharks. And indeed, that ended up being the case over these last few weeks, over these last couple of months, as rumors continued to swirl with multiple different head coaching potential candidates. Warsofsky's name was always involved, and even as the search got more and more narrow and down to the final stage, Warsofsky's name seemed to be at the top of the list, and he always seemed to be the most likely candidate to actually end up getting this job. So it did not come out of completely left field when the Sharks announced this news today. Now, the fact that Warsofsky has been involved with the team over these last couple of years can be viewed as both of a negative and positive angle. The positive view is that when a new coach comes into a team, they have to go through a bit of an introductory phase where they really acquaint themselves with the players that they have. You can only really learn so much from actually watching video where you could then see, oh, this player does this well or that player does that poorly, but to actually understand the inner workings of the team does take some time. How do they act during practice? What really needs to be said in the pregame, in the postgame, or during the game itself, during the intermissions, to really rally them as a group? That's something that you need a bit of an adjustment period for. But Warsofsky, having been involved with the team, having seen what make these players tick, will allow him to actually hit the ground running as soon as training camp and preseason opens up for the next season. This is indeed a positive thing. On the negative side of things, however, because Warsofsky has been involved with the Sharks these last couple of years, he's also been involved with the amount of losing that the Sharks have done these last couple of seasons. 4th last 2 years ago, dead last year. That's not really a thing that you want to be carrying in to the next season. A completely fresh head coach coming out of the organization, you can view that as a fresh start for yourself. You're starting from zero. You're starting from square one. It's a clean slate for you as a player heading into these next seasons. But bringing in a guy who was already very heavily involved with the team in these last couple of seasons, that can kind of feel as though you're getting more of the same thing, even if Warsofsky brings a different angle of viewing the game than what David Quinn did. However, having said that, I do imagine that Mike Grier inquired a lot from the players during his post-season interviews at the end of this past regular season. He asked many questions about David Quinn, which could have perhaps led to his firing a few days later, and it is very likely he also asked many questions about Warsofsky and how the players would feel about him becoming the new head coach. And I doubt Grier would have made this decision to bring him in if the players didn't close to 100% sign off on this decision. But it's hard to sort of separate yourself from those last couple of seasons if you don't really feel as though much has changed. So it is certainly possible that there are some negative aspects to this as well. Now, to focus a bit more on Ryan Warsofsky as a coach himself, as I mentioned, he has had a lot of success in different leagues below the NHL. He won a Calder Cup championship in the AHL, but even prior to that was having a lot of success in that particular league, as well as the ECHL and even the NCAA. So he is a coach who knows how to win not only in the regular season, but also in the postseason, which is very, very helpful. On top of that, this isn't some recycled coach part of the classic NHL coaching carousel. You're not getting a guy who already has 20 regular seasons under his belt and is perhaps very stuck in his own ways. You're getting someone who's going to have a fresh take at what it takes to win at the NHL level, which could be very, very interesting, especially since the Sharks are likely to have a very young roster as we move into next season, with the signing of Will Smith and the likely drafting drafting and signing of Macklin Celebrini as well, the Sharks will have a relatively young group of players, and to bring in a relatively young coach like Warsofsky could end up bearing some niceties for the San Jose Sharks. So it'll be very interesting to see how much of a departure there is from the way David Quinn had the game be played to now what Ryan Warsofsky is going to end up doing with the team. Hopefully the positives end up outshining the negatives. I also do imagine Warsofsky will be given a similar, if not even slightly longer leash than what David Quinn has or had. Even if this upcoming season goes very poorly for Warsofsky, and once again the Sharks are a basement-dwelling team, he'll likely be given an extra year, an extra couple of years to actually make this work, to see where he can bring this franchise, and hopefully he can bring it to exactly where he brought his previous team, the Chicago Wolves, to, which is a championship in that particular league. We can only hope. Class dismissed.